Assalamualaikum and welcome to our Unlock Possibilities presentation. Now I will show you the flow for our website system. So the first of all, you will need to sign up to be able to log into the system. So now I will put my name and an email. And after that, you will need to log in into the system. So the first thing you must do is fill up this application so that we be able to know your full name and all other information needed. So put my name, date of birth, C number, phone number, email, your race and religion, address, your job and your income, and also your status, and then you click submit, and we see that everything will be stored in the personal info database. So this is it, the first one. So the first name is Hanif, the last name is Ikmal, and the birthday, month and year, IC number, gender and all other stuff. So next, you will need to know what kind of aid do you want to apply. So I will apply the basic necessity aid. So you need to put your name. Doesn't matter is full or not. The only thing that matter is your identification number, your contact number, and your address, and then you click apply. And so you will see that everything will be stored in the 8 database. So yes, this is the one. And then you will be able to search for it, but there's a problem with mine. Then you can also update your profile, so you can change either your name or mobile number or anything you want. So I will change the name, the date of birth, the months and the years also. The IC number must be the same, but the other things are not the same. It's okay. So that it will be stored and it will be updated in the personal info. So you can see it will change. First name and the last name will change to John Doe. The birthday, month and year also change, and also the everything in the address and the city also. So that's it. Oh yeah, you can check it whether it is approved or not. This is still in pending mode. And now I will show you on the admin login page. So you must log in first to be able to change anything from the website page itself. You can either search for the user, manage them, you can delete them. So I will delete this one, the ID earlier, and later we will see whether we can use it or not. So I will approve the application that I made earlier in the basic necessity, approve it, and then we'll see whether it will approve or not. So we use the account that I did earlier. So you can see it said username or password is invalid. That means it's been deleted from the database. Now I will use the older one. So check the approval, and yes, it has been approved. So that's it.
As for the user, they can input data into 4 forms, which are monthly form, daily form, basic necessity form, and disable form. They can choose either of these form to fill in. These 4 forms will share common structures. First, the web will establish a connection to the database. Then, using a post method, the input that users input from the site will be saved in 4 different variables, which are name, ID, phone, and address. Next, the site will select a table from the database and will link the input data into the table. If the input that users input are the same from the table, then it will display your credential may already be used for an application to inform the users that the input is already exists in the database. If the input is new, then the input will be inserted into the table to the corresponding column based on the value that been provided by the users. After the input is successfully added, the site will prompt a message to inform the users that the data is successfully added to the table. But if some of data are invalid, the site will prompt a message alerting the users that one of the input data is invalid. Next, we will go to approval page. For this page, users can input their username into the search input, and it will show the user status of the application that they submit. When users input their username into the input box, it will call upon my function to search for the name from the database. If the name exists in the database, it will retrieve the user ID, username, type, and status of the users from the database into the variable, and it will echo out the variable in a table.
Now we're going to see the coding for the administrator part. So we start with index. In index we have admin login button. We click, we will go to adminlogin.html. In the HTML we have include the style.css, the website logo, administrator, sign in, and these are the two input to sign in for administrator. we have username and password and a button. After administrator put in the right username and password and they click sign in, we use post method and go to admin.login.php. In admin.login.php, we start the login process, which is include the connection.php. Connection.php is to connect to the database, and after it connected, it will go to the if loop. If it set post login button, if the login button was clicked, it will get inside the loop. Inside the loop, we will use the post method to receive the username and the password, and we start the SQL select from admin's table, where admin username and admin password is exactly the same as the two input that were used. Then we execute the query, and if there is error, they will execute an error. If it's right, it will store in the result, and then we convert it into a number. Then we go inside another loop, if loop. So if count is 1, if the row received is 1, only one row is received, it will start a session for administrator, and we will echo a success login message. If there is an error, we will echo a login error and go back to admin login. So if it's successful, we will go to admin main page, which is here. In admin main page, we start the session for receiving the administrator session, and we have admin main page, the site.css, the website logo, and then we have logout button. Then we have three button, three main function button for administrator, which is search user, manage user, and manage application status. In search user, we will click search user, and then we go to admin searching. Admin searching, we will go to a search page. So the search page, we have the username, user ID, and email column. To search, we start with include the connection.php to connect to the database, start session, and execute an SQL, select from members table, execute the SQL, and to fetch the data from the database, we use MySQL fetch array, which is, it takes everything from the table and we put it inside a while loop. So while the table still has data inside it, it will constantly repeat. Then we use run to fetch the data inside the database, inside the table, and we put it into its variable, and we repeat this until there is no more data in the table, and we echo the variables, each of these inside the HTML coding. This is the function to search for the username, which is username here. So when we put the designated username, the function will do its work to search for the username. So for status, admin status is in the manage application status. Admin status, we have include the connection. We session start, we select from 8 table. From 8 table, we will execute the query. Inside the HTML coding, we have name, ID number, phone number, address, every column, and this is same as the searching. We fetch the array of the table, we run, take the data from the database, and we put it into its own variable, and we use session 8id to exactly pick the 8id, which is kind of the primary key to differentiate between the other rows in the table. And managing status, we have 3 buttons, which is reject, proof, and append. For each of these buttons, we have, when we click one of these buttons, we will send the session 8id, which is the 8id for the 8 that we want to edit, and the admin username to keep the session going. And each of these has its own PHP file. We have state reject, state proof, and state pending. So in state approve, we use get method to get the admin username and get method to get the 8id. In DB, and in the set approve, we will use select from 8 table, where 8id is equal to what, to from the admin status that we get, and then we will execute the SQL. Then we will count. If count is set returns 1 row, we will execute update query, update 8, set status to approve, where 8id is exactly this from the admin status part. Then we execute it. So after we execute, we will go back to admin status, same as the other PHP. For pending, we set it to pending. For reject, we set it to reject, and that will change the status variable to either rejected or approved or pending. So last one, we will go to manage user. When we click manage user, we will go to admin list. In admin list, same as the others, we include connection to PHP. We start session, we select from members table, we execute the query. We have user session ID, username, email, and delete column. We use the while loop to display the data. We use session ID to differentiate between the rows Then we have delete button. So in delete button, we same as the others, we include the user ID and the admin username. So when we click delete, we will go to user delete.php. In user delete.php, we will get the admin username and get method the user ID. From after we get the user ID, we will execute select from members table, where ID is exactly from what we get. We execute the query, and if the query returns 1, it will execute inside the if loop. Then we will execute the delete SQL, which is delete from members where ID equals to user delete. Then we execute it. Then we will echo a successful message, and we will go back to the admin list in case the administrator want to do another function. So from that is the 3 function that the administrator can do. And this is the last one, which is the logout. For the logout, we share the same PHP with the user part and the add. And this is the logout of PHP. We share the same PHP file for user and admin. We unset posts, login user and admin username. Then we go back to the index.html, which is the default page for the website.
Thank you so much for watching, and please stay safe.